You've just found the Montana Outdoor Podcast. Here, you'll discover the people and places that make Montana like no other place in the world. If you love to fish, hunt, or just enjoy creating your own adventure in the outdoors, you have come to the right place. The Montana Outdoor Podcast is brought to you by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer, home of Boss Snowplows and Accessories, and Diamond Sea Trailers and Accessories. Go to rmtte.com and see everything they have waiting for you online, or just come by 5680 Expressway in Missoula, and by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, delivering the highest quality lumber, paneling, flooring, and reclaimed wood products anywhere in North America. Let them guide you through the woods at their showroom in Missoula on Highway 93 South or at superior-hardwoods.com. Now, let's go discover Montana's great outdoors with your host, Downrigger Dale. Have a great show, buddy. Can't wait to hear it.
Thank you very much, Roger. And we have got another great show here for you. This is a continuation of the series we started that talks about all the different hunting opportunities in all the different regions across the state of Montana. We're going to be talking about Region 1. But before we get that underway, I want to just go through a few quick reminders. One, folks, if you would please, especially those of you on YouTube, if you will like and share as well as subscribe, that helps us out a great deal with YouTube. Those of you listening to the podcast all around the web there's so many different places that carry our podcast now. Geez, I think there's about 30 of, I guess it's getting close to 40 now. So thanks for listening to it, and be sure and like and subscribe to those areas too, because that helps us a great deal. Sharing is a huge one for us, so if you would. Also want to welcome in a group that's been with us for from the beginning of this podcast, and that is our active military serving all around the world. And we are honored, believe me, we are honored that you spend some time with us when you get a little time off. And so thank you so much. And of course, thank you for your service, for protecting our nation and serving away from your families and all that. I know that's not easy, brother. That just means the world to us that you're here and that what you do for our great nation. So thank you. And I hope this podcast brings a little bit of home back to you. Now, also our veterans out there, can't thank you enough for your service as well. All the great veterans in Montana, and we have a lot of them, as well as those of you that are listening around the United States that are veterans. Thank you for your service very much. Speaking of veterans, we did have a request, and I got a few suggestions, but I thought I'd throw it out one more time just to see if anybody else has any thoughts on this. And that is, if you are aware of any of the different organizations in Montana that offer hunts for disabled veterans, we had some folks ask about how they could help with those and wanted to. I know there are several out there that do it, which is fantastic. And even those of you that do help with fishing for disabled veterans, maybe we could do a podcast or two about your organization. So if you're a member of those organizations or know about one, if you would shoot me an email, and you got that from Roger, my email, I'll give it to you again, downrigger@montanooutdoor.com. And if you could shoot me the name of that and how to get a hold of somebody, if you don't know, just the name of the organization is good. We'd appreciate that very much. We have got a wonderful guest. Good to have Neil Anderson along with us here. Neil, you're the wildlife manager for Region 1. Can you tell us a bit about yourself, why you got involved with FWP and all that?
Sure. I mean, I grew up a hunter, a fisherman, loved the outdoors. Kind of became more interested in wildlife management because I want to make sure that we have the resources available for the folks that I had when I growing up. Feel very blessed to have had the opportunities to enjoy the outdoors. And so I went and got my undergraduate degree at South Dakota State, which is in South Dakota. And I was raised in Black Hills of South Dakota. Then came to Bozeman to MSU for my master's degree, and pretty much just stayed ever since. And then I started off working in our wildlife lab out of Bozeman. So did a lot of wildlife health either research or management activities. I did that for about 20 years and came to this position, the wildlife manager position, Region 1, about 10 years ago, just a little over 10 years. So in total, I've got about 30 years with the department.
Now, as far as Region 1 goes, and I know you know this well. One, folks, we're getting a little chuckle out of this. For some reason, our recording didn't work, so we're doing this again. So you're well versed in this, Neil. But now let's talk a bit about Region 1 itself. What is the terrain like? Any particular things we really need to watch out for?
It's fairly rugged terrain. It's all mountainous for the most part. Yeah, we have some valleys and things that aren't quite as mountainous, but we're really known for the amount of timber we have. It's a very timbered region, probably more timbered than any other region in the state. And along with that comes a fair amount of brush. And so it's a little bit thicker, more brush than some folks are probably used to hunting if you're hunting in other parts of the state. And it can make getting around this country a little bit more challenging.
Mm-hmm. How about as far as public land versus private land? Access is always an important thing for all hunters out there. Give us an idea of what the percentages look like there.
Sure. Yeah, about 76% of Region 1 is held in public ownership. So, that's Forest Service, DNRC state lands, and FWP state lands. And that equates to about 5.4 million acres of public land available. And then we have a very robust block management program up here that contributes about another 650,000 acres. So all total, there's about 6 million acres that are open for hunting for sportsmen. And
wow.
We have some other private property that aren't involved in block management, certainly allow some hunting opportunity as well. But yeah, there's a lot of opportunity. Most of it's either signed in at a box or you just go. So it's great.
Yeah, as far as public opportunities go, Region 1 must be one of the higher ones across the state.
Yeah, I think we're up there for sure. A lot of all the regions are doing a great job of trying to make sure there's lots of hunting opportunity, and I feel like we're blessed in that regard.
As far as hunters go, do you tend to have more going after the big game, or is it more bird hunting, or kind of a balance of it?
It's a mix. We don't hear as much from the bird hunters, but we have a fair number of folks that come out primarily for mountain grouse. But I'd say big game is probably still one of the top, those top species that people come out here for.
Speaking of that, talk a bit about the opportunities for bull elk. I know that's a real important one for a lot of hunters, or at least it steals most of the press. What are the bull elk hunting opportunities like in Region 1?
Yeah, I like to tell people that we have elk in places where the habitat allows elk to be, because it's so timbered. It's maybe a little bit less typical of what you see in the rest of the state for elk habitat. But we have some good pockets of elk. The best places are probably our central districts, in our southwest districts. So hunting district like 103, 122, 121 probably hold the most elk, and they're probably the most popular hunting areas. But we do have elk pretty much all across the region. They're just more in scattered pockets, and you have to work a little bit to find them. I try to encourage folks to use those mapping tools you have, Google Earth, Onyx, those kind of things. And look for places where you've got a mix of both that cover, which is usually pretty easy to find here. It's the open forage areas that are a little bit harder to find. And that will help you kind of pinpoint areas to try. And you're always welcome to call, me or the biologists up here, and they're more than willing to talk to folks about elk hunting opportunities.
Yeah, and you'll see one of the things that I always like to remind viewers and listeners is go to the podcast description area, and there's an area in that is listed for links. So it's usually around the play button or that, like on YouTube, you'll see it kind of starts and then it'll say more. If you click on more, it expands and you can see everything. Because one of the things we've been talking a little bit about already is the 2025 hunting forecast that was done by the FWP. And there's a link to that forecast for Region 1, but also in there, I'll have your a link to your email there too, so people can just click that, and then you can pass it along to the right folks when they have questions. Let's talk a bit about muleys. Now, mule deer in Region 1, as I understand it, is strictly you can only harvest antlered mule deer. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep, there's no doe harvest in Region 1.
Okay. And why is that?
Mule deer are one of those species, very much like elk. You find them in the places where the habitat allows. But I think overall our mule deer numbers have been down from what they were historically. And so we're really trying to take pressure off the female portion of the population and try to allow those numbers to grow to the extent we can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's important to understand, gang, is that even though you say, well, gee, they're going to take all the bucks down, that's really not the case. And also, really, it doesn't take very many bucks to help the whole population, and as that grows, then so does the buck population. So that's not a big issue, but I think some people get a little confused by that.
Yeah, they do. And we did a couple of research project a couple of years ago in two different areas of Region 1. It's kind of the central area, what we call the Fisher drainage, and then over the Whitefish range, which is over by Eureka. And we rated collared does. We took blood samples. We looked at pregnancy rates, and really do have a high pregnancy rate for adult does. We have plenty of bucks on the landscape. Does are getting bred. They're pregnant. That's not the issue for the mule deer population up here. It's probably more related to habitat, predation, and maybe even competition with whitetail deer.
Mm-hmm. Now, there is certain areas of Region 1 for permits that if you harvest a buck there, you're going to have to do the CWD testing, right?
Yeah, it's one of the few places in the state where we actually have mandatory CWD testing. And so we have CWD kind of around Libby, the town of Libby. This permit area code, it's 10350. It's a North Fisher drainage. We get about 13 permits for mule deer there, and it is mandatory testing. So for the folks who are lucky enough to draw that permit, if you harvest one, it's required to have it tested.
So as far as hunting districts go, where would we find most of the mule deer, do you think?
Similar to where you find elk, they tend to like some of the more similar habitat, a little bit more open, but fairly rugged. So again, 103, 122, some of what a 121, which is kind of the central to southwest portions of the region, both mule deer. But kind of like elk and mule deer can be found almost anywhere in the region. Really focused on those more rugged, kind of steeper terrain. That's where they seem to like to go. And if you're looking for a bigger buck, everybody up there, I think you're up there looking for mountain goats, you're probably pretty close to where you might find some of those larger mule deer.
Any regulation changes different from last year we should watch out for?
Yeah, no, there have been no changes for mule deer. Everything is the same as last year. Last year was the first year of the mandatory testing for CWD on that permit. So everything right now is the same as it was last year.
Mm-hmm. Now let's move on to whitetail in Region 1. How are the population numbers looking there, and where are the best spots to find whitetail? I imagine they're kind of everywhere, huh?
Yeah, up in northwest Montana, we have whitetails pretty much everywhere. And we are actually seeing whitetails up in some country that you might think, this is better mule deer country, fairly high elevations, even up to around 7,000 feet sometimes. So,
wow.
Yeah, so we're well known for whitetails. I mean, that's kind of a destination for us. We harvest more whitetail deer than any other region in the state. And so we have really good whitetail hunting. Last few years for all of our ungulates, elk, mule deer, and especially whitetails, we've had really good recruitment, mild winters, combined with some efforts to maybe reduce some predators on the landscape. And we've had really good recruitment. So I think whitetail numbers are definitely on the increase. And we're starting to get some age class on some of those deer now where you might be able to get into some bigger bucks.
How about regulation changes for whitetail? Anything new there?
The biggest thing with whitetail, there haven't been a whole lot of changes, but there was one change, and I don't know if we're going to talk about CWD now, but probably a good time because we did find CWD in the Flathead Valley. And so we have 2 spots now, one over by Libby and one north of Kalispell, that are in hot spots for CWD. And so we set up a CWD management zone around that area where we found these positives. And we're offering a over-the-counter either sex whitetail license, one per hunter, for that district, and trying to expand some opportunity for harvest there. Just to get better information and maybe even reduce deer densities in that area. So that's probably the biggest change.
Has the CWD been on the rise a lot in Region 1?
Interesting. It's one of the places where, through a pretty hefty management effort and cooperation with sportsmen, we've been able to actually kind of hold prevalence relatively steady, which is encouraging. So we think we're on the right path for management. We're not seeing huge increases. Yeah, it does come with the cost of having to put a little bit of pressure on whitetail deer, especially in those areas where you have CWD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we often, think of mule deer more for the CWD deal, but it'll afflict pretty much any ungulate, doesn't it?
Just the cervid family, so the deer family. So most species of deer, elk, and moose in our area. Yep.
Okay. Let's talk a bit about one that I never think of for Region 1, and that is pronghorn. But I got an email from a fella that said, "Hey, I think I saw some pronghorn in Region 1." I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
I mean, there's not any pronghorn in there, is there?
I've been here 10 years, and I've yet to see one in the region. So,
Okay.
that doesn't mean they couldn't, a group couldn't travel up here, but they're maybe a rare visitor to the region. We
Right.
do not have pronghorn habitat up here.
So, Jake, if you're listening, hey, like Neil said, I mean, you might have seen it, but take some pictures next time if you can.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. How about moose numbers in Region 1? Now, that is a permit-only big game species.
That is correct. We offer 93 licenses for moose.
93.
Yep, currently. And obviously, the application period is coming on, so you're out of luck if you didn't draw a license so far. Always try again next year. I'll be there with you. Right again. But so and that number's down. It's only bull. We only harvest bulls. Overall, I think our moose numbers are down, but they're stable to maybe even slightly increasing in places. But yeah, they're not what they used to be. Again, some of the habitat changes, predation, are some of the things that we're worried about and concerned about for moose. But overall, it seems to like the population is relatively stable. Some folks get upset when they hear that. It doesn't mean that they're doing great or at historically high levels. They're just kind of hanging where they're at right now.
Yeah, my third oldest daughter, that's a bucket list animal for her, for sure.
Yep.
She's wanting to get a permit for one of those. So if you get one, good luck to you. And it's not a bad region for that. How about black bear in Region 1? What's black bear hunting like there?
Yeah, I think if you think of Region 1, we're probably known for 2 things. It's whitetail deer and it's black bears. And we do have a robust black bear population. We typically harvest around 35% of the black bears harvested in the state, up to almost 40, depending on the year.
Wow.
Back in 2021 and 2022, we had really high harvests. Over 700 black bears each year were harvested in the region. So it's about 1,500 black bears over the course of 2 years. And we have seen a bit of a dip in harvest. And now we're about at 450, which is lower, probably the lower end. And I think probably hit those black bear number, black bear population is fairly hard. But they are starting to come back up, and we still have a lot of black bears on the landscape. So for folks who want to come out this year, just know it's been a incredible huckleberry season this year.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah.
So bears may be fairly well dispersed, and they may be fairly high, especially for the start of the season, as long as those huckleberries are still out there. So yeah, it could be a challenging year for harvesting the black bear. Usually when you get the bigger harvest, it's during the poor berry years where those bears are kind of forced into some drainages looking for food resources. So they're probably pretty scattered this year, but you can certainly find black bears if you're willing to work at it and look for big huckleberry patches.
And for those of you going after the black bear, of course, you're going to find another bear in Region 1 as well, grizzly bears. Now, uh, since you have so many grizzlies in the area, is there some concerns as far as people understanding the difference?
Sure.
Because you definitely don't want to make that mistake.
Right.
Now, that's mandatory, right? That you have to take that little test that they test you to make sure you know the difference between a black bear and a grizzly.
Yeah, there's an online test that everybody needs to take. If in order to purchase a black bear license, you have to be able to demonstrate that you took that test. And it's a fairly simple thing to do. You can just go onto the FWP website and look for that test, and it gives you opportunities to try. So if you fail on the first one, it doesn't mean you can't try again.
Right. Yeah.
And it's basically just some photos of different bears in different situations, and trying to encourage people to learn how to identify the differences.
Mhm. Yeah, once you get it down, I mean, it's pretty easy to get that.
Yeah.
But is there any one characteristic that is probably the easiest to tell?
You know, a
The
lot of
diff
people talk about the hump on grizzly bears, and like, I think it's an important thing to know, but, depending on posture, I've seen some pictures of black bears where, depending on how they're standing, their shoulder blades are up and it looks like a hump. So it's kind of the head shape, it's more of a dish-shaped head, smaller ears compared to a black bear. And there are some instances where, I'm not sure, but always, if you're not sure, don't you?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you do not wanna be in that situation where you accidentally harvested a grizzly,
Right.
because that's not good. But if it happens, turn yourself in. Don't I mean, the cover up gets you usually way more trouble than just saying, I blew it here and here's what
Yep,
happened.
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, of course, almost all, well, not almost all of Region 1 for sure is grizzly country. And there is a high population of those bears there. Any quick tips you could give us as far as just avoiding running into one of those?
Yeah, I think the big thing up here to remember too is if you're coming up and you're going to be camping, we do have food restriction orders pretty much everywhere in Region 1. And so in camp, maintaining a clean camp, um, eliminating the attractants that they can get into, whether it's haying, food and that type of stuff from a tree, or putting it in hard side vehicles. And I just encourage people, it's a little tough right now with the ground being dry, but if you know you're in an area where there's a grizzly bear, maybe just back out and try a different direction, or go to just a slightly different area.
Yeah, and I imagine with that great crop of huckleberries, the grizzlies like those as well,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yep. They sure do. But as those start to dry off, you'll start seeing those bears coming into those riparian areas, looking for choke cherries and some mountain ash and some other berries. So
Mhm.
I think the biggest thing is being aware of your situation. We always encourage people to carry bear spray. It's lightweight. It's a good thing to carry. Um, so
Now, I want to take a quick break here and let our friends from Superior Hardwoods of Montana get a message out that we're just so proud that we have them as one of our sponsors. But when we come back, I want to ask you about one area that's a bit confusing, and that is the number of wolves that a person can harvest in Region 1. And there's been some changes there. So we'll talk about that right after our friends tell us a little bit more about Superior Hardwoods of Montana. I want to take a minute to thank Superior Hardwoods of Montana for their support of this podcast. It is what allows us to bring you the latest from Montana's great outdoors, with very few interruptions, by the way. That said, there is another reason we are lucky to have Superior Hardwoods of Montana on board. They are an amazing business that can offer all of you some of the most incredible wood products you have ever seen. Plus, Superior Hardwoods of Montana is still a place that actually cares about and appreciates their customers, the same way we appreciate you, our viewers and listeners. They offer you something original and totally unique, like their 11 acres of wood wall paneling, flooring, trim, beams, slabs, well, you name it. Every single piece has a story behind it. Wood from old barns, historic homesteads, even historic factories. And that amazing wood can be part of your story too. right there in your home can be a piece of American history, brought back to life, custom milled and refinished to your specifications. So it not only tells its original story, but also speaks to who you are and how special your home is. Superior Hardwoods also has exotic woods, live edge slabs, pre-finished and unfinished flooring too, all in stock and ready to go. Need help picking out the right material? Just ask. Their team has been doing this since 1977. They know how to guide you through the woods. Swing into their beautiful showroom at 5120 Highway 93 South in Missoula, or you can just check them out online at superior-hardwoods.com. That's Superior Hardwoods of Montana. Local, knowledgeable, family run, and ready to help you build something that lasts. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. Superior Hardwoods of Montana. Go see him. Neil Anderson is my guest. He is with Region 1. We're talking about the hunting opportunities for Region 1. Yeah, it is right on top of us, folks. It's time to do a little hunting in Montana, and Region 1's a great place to do it, so we're learning about it. One of the regulation changes that's happened, at least for some of our listeners that have emailed me, is a bit confusing, and that is wolf harvest in Region 1. Neil, could you go over, just so everyone understands, just how many wolves are allowed to be harvested in Region 1?
Yeah, so there's been a recent changes with the Fish and Wildlife Commission, and they've actually upped the number of wolves you can harvest in Region 1. So if you're a hunter, you can shoot 15. You need a license for each one of those, so you have to get 15 licenses. And a trapper, you can get an additional 15. So potentially, if you do both, you could harvest up to 30 wolves in the region.
Wow.
I don't think I know of anybody who's actually done that. Most people get, if they see one, they're lucky, and if they harvest one, that's probably more the norm. But there's some dedicated trappers out there who are pretty good at it, who do harvest multiple wolves.
Yeah. So 15. If you've got 15 tags, you can get 15 wolves in Region 1.
Yep, during hunting season. Yep, and that is different.
Wow. So that's something to think about, gang, and maybe having one of those in your pocket or two or so to get them. Now, the reason for that higher harvest number is just, I assume, population's gotten pretty high up at there.
Yeah, it's fairly stable. We're probably just under around 500 or so wolves just in Region 1 alone, where we probably have the highest density of wolves in all of Montana in terms of the area. We've got abundant whitetail deer and prey species that allow them to grow to those kind of levels. And the legislature has actually suggested or indicated that we need to try to lower overall wolf numbers in the state. And so the department and the Fish and Wildlife Commission is trying to honor that and making seasons fairly liberal on wolves. They are not an easy animal to hunt. They're very smart. They're very shy, and there's some guys who are really good at it, but they have to. There's a learning curve there.
Let's talk a bit about bird hunting now. For Region 1, there are upland game bird opportunities. There are waterfowl opportunities. What are the main hunting opportunities as far as, which species can we find in your region? And is any significant changes in population numbers over the years?
I think if you're looking for pheasants, we're not necessarily known for pheasants, but we do have some areas where there's some decent pheasant hunting. Nine Pipe Wildlife Management Area, which is actually within the Flathead Reservation boundary. So you have to make sure you have a tribal hunting license there. Offers probably some of our best pheasant hunting opportunities, as well as the pretty good waterfowl opportunities as well. But we do have some areas in the Flathead Valley and some other places where we do have pheasant populations. They're a little bit more hit or miss, and a lot of that might be on private property that's not within the Black Management Program. But there are some opportunities up around Kalispell. We're pretty limited on pheasants. We just don't have that, all those agricultural fields that pheasants seem to really like. what we're really known for is mountain grouse. And so we have
Yeah.
3 species of mountain grouse. We have rough grouse, blue or dusky, depending on whether you're old school, same thing. And spruce grouse. And we probably harvest more rough grouse than any other region in the state. And so we've got really good grouse numbers up here. I think the numbers are looking okay this year. But if you're looking to get one of each species, this is a great place to go. If you've never harvested spruce grouse, probably one of the better places to go.
Yeah. And as far as table fare goes, I think grouse are excellent eating.
No, I'd agree. Yeah.
Yeah. That's as far as Upland Game Birds, that's one of my favorite ones to hunt.
Yeah.
They can be a lot of fun to get after.
Sure.
So give that a try for sure. And population numbers looking pretty good across the board for birds.
Yeah, it seemed to be fairly stable. It varies a lot from year to year, depending on spring and broods and that type of stuff. But I'm hearing some reports that we're seeing some decent broods out there. So I think it might be pretty much kind of an average year for us. But on average, we shoot just under. Well, last year we shot about 7,500 grouse, rough grouse in region.
How about waterfowl? What would be the main waterfowl that most people go after in Region 1?
I don't think we were that different than some of the other regions where mallards are probably one of the more popular duck species to go over. But we can get some pretty decent early season pintail hunting up at here. We've got scaup and some of the other species as well. Probably not the same numbers, but those are probably the more popular species. And the Flathead Valley is a great spot to try to go out duck hunting. There are people who aren't on the north end of Flathead Lake. I mentioned Nine Pipe WMA, or wildlife management area. But there are a lot of potholes out here that hold ducks. And so if you're into it, just kind of do your research. And you can find some places where you can get into ducks. And sometimes there may not be a lot of competition.
How about for mountain lion? Do you have a pretty good mountain lion population in Region 1?
Yeah, we do. Again, we're probably have some of the higher densities of mountain lions. A few years ago, the Fish and Wildlife Commission basically decided to put enough pressure on lions to try to reduce those densities by 30 to 40% in the region. And so we offer a lot of mountain lion opportunity, a lot of licenses out there. You need to know about the quotas, and I really recommend folks go and look at the mountain lion regulations because they can be a little bit confusing at times. You have to buy an unlimited license in an area, or you can buy a limited license. There's a couple of different options.
Yeah.
And then it's run off of a quota system. So in a hunting district, or what we call our line management units, we have a certain quota for both males and females. And once those quotas are reached, that unit is closed for that gender. So I think it's if you want to come out mountain lion hunting, it's a challenge. If you don't use dogs during the winter, people do it. I've heard people calling in different things, or even tracking mountain lions and being fairly successful. But I'd recommend maybe check out the regulations, and if you have questions, give folks a call. We can help guide you on what kind of license you might need and kind of hunting opportunity you'd like to enjoy.
Yeah, the mountain lion for using the dogs, has that been getting more popular, do you think?
I don't know that it's actually getting more popular. I think it's stayed fairly consistent up here. There's been some changes that limit, like for instance, non-residents being able to bring dogs into the region. That applies to the entire state. And so back in their 90s and stuff, we actually had a lot of people showing up in Region 1 to harvest lions, which created some social issues in terms of people trying to get on the same track, and a lot of discord there, as well as a really quick harvest where in some districts we would open and close the district within 24 hours.
Oh,
yeah.
Just get the quota, so time to shut it down.
Quota fills, and then it's done. But that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Some of our hunting districts don't even close. We don't hit quota. And so I think there's plenty of opportunity up here for lions. I think our numbers are down a bit, but that's kind of by design. But there's still plenty of opportunity.
Okay. We're going to take one last little break here. But when we come back, I want to talk about getting access in Region 1, and maybe you can give us a little idea of tips and things that you would recommend in getting access on private land. That's an important issue, and I want everyone to listen up for that one, because I think Neil can give you some good ideas and good thoughts there. So we'll do that right after this. Are you going to get out hunting or to your favorite ice fishing hole this year? Yeah, I know. Finding the time is always the hard part, isn't it? Well, Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer can help you get the things done that you have to do so you have time to do the things you want to do. How about clearing the driveway or work areas of snow? Yeah, that can be a time sucker for sure. Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer has just what you need. A huge selection of Boss snowplows and accessories that'll fit any truck or ATV even. Boss snowplows are flat amazing at removing snow fast. Or how about something that can serve you at both work and on your next adventure outdoors? Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer has awesome Diamond C utility trailers and accessories that can haul work equipment during the week, and then your ATV or snowmobile or other awesome outdoor toys on the weekend. Of course, Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer also has an amazing service department with top technicians and parts pros that are ready to fix or replace whatever you need, from installing a new fifth wheel or gooseneck hitch, or even rewiring the lights on your trailer so they work the way they're supposed to. What about getting some other time-saving accessories for your truck installed? That, my friends, is for sure one of their specialties. And get this, Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer can even help with financing. Yeah, they've got you covered. This is going to be a great fall and winter season, my friends, especially if you go see Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. They're in Missoula at 5680 Expressway. You can call them at 406-549-4243 or check them out online at rmtte.com. That's Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer, rmtte.com. Get a hold of them today and then start planning that hunting trip. Back here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast, I want to thank very much Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer for all they do for the podcast. We wouldn't have one without them. So Neil Anderson's my guest. We're talking about Region 1 hunting opportunities. And, of course, one thing that I think all hunters bring up, and we talk about it often on this podcast, is access into private land. And you've got some pretty good participation with private landowners, and that give us some ideas of, what are the best ways to get access with private landowners, and maybe cover some of the mistakes that people make.
Sure. I'll probably maybe focus on the areas that are not in block management. A lot of our block management areas are.
Yeah, that's pretty well done there.
Right.
You just follow the rules.
Yeah. And there's probably some tips that folks can do to try to make sure we maintain that access. But, if you're looking, I don't think it's much different than any other part of the state. If you'd like to gain access to somebody's property, one, you need to be respectful. If you show up and your truck is full of mud and things, weeds are a big thing that landowners worry about up here, just like anywhere else. But it's typically a better tactic is to try to develop a relationship with the landowner. Knocking on doors works sometimes, but if you do your homework and try to contact folks early, and develop a little bit of a relationship, so there's a trust factor there between you and the landowner, you're probably going to be much more successful. A lot of our areas and some of these urban areas that aren't in block are in urban areas which are not in our block management areas. So up here, I think what is different is a lot of these private properties are fairly small. So the bigger stuff, for the most part, we have in block management. Not all of it, but most of the bigger properties are block management. But so now you're looking at other landowners, and it's not unusual, to be 20 acres or less. Big place out here anymore is about 100 acres. So it's also something to be, keep in mind that you're hunting fairly small acreages. There can be other landowners, other houses in the area, and so safety is a lot of concern. So I think, being responsible, demonstrating that you're a responsible hunter will help open some of those doors. But also know that there's a lot of landowners who really have a lot of concern about letting people on their property they don't know because of the fact that you have 100 acres, but your neighbor may have a house not too far away.
Overall, Neil, what do you feel are the main challenges that you and your staff face in Region 1?
No, there are a few. Because of our timbered habitat, we only have a few areas where we can do aerial surveys. Unlike a lot of the other parts of the state, they really rely on those to monitor their deer populations or elk populations, big game populations. And our opportunities to do that are pretty limited. You just can't literally see the animals for the trees.
Right.
So it makes it a little bit more challenging if you want to do some sort of management action to try to change a trajectory of a population, like we talked about elk and mule deer, trying to increase those numbers. When we put a regulation in place that we think might help is actually monitoring whether that's really having the impact we thought. And so monitoring our populations is a big challenge. We're working on some research projects that use trail cameras that maybe help produce a population estimate.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of work, and we're still a few years out before we feel like we might be able to use that. And so we're doing a few things to try to get better information to inform, the commission and the public on what's going on with their populations. That's one. And I think, we talked about just trying to maintain public and hunter interest in some of our meetings and events. And I don't think this is unique to Region 1. We did a scoping effort here this last May, and we just didn't have very good participation. So trying to figure out how to get folks more engaged and more involved in the decision-making process, because it's all of our resource. It's really important that, we hear from hunters, because it's, if you want to have a voice in what happens management-wise, you need to participate. Trying to figure out how to kind of make sure that we're working with hunters out there, and we have a good representation of those voices that are out there.
Yeah. For those of you that send me emails, and I appreciate all of you sending me emails, because that's really important. And, when I do things like this is a way to pass it on. But really, the best way, when there are those public comment opportunities, do that, because it does make a difference. You guys can't be everywhere in the region, and, a lot of people are out there covering ground. You can kind of be some eyes and ears and influence, some of these decisions that are made that maybe Neil and his staff haven't even know about. So give that opportunity. And right there I think because of technology, it's never been easier to get your comments. So to utilize that.
Sure. Yeah, so because we don't have that current ability to monitor populations through some sort of survey in a lot of areas, we actually rely really heavily on hunter harvest to try to monitor trends. And so, making sure that, when you're reporting your harvest, you get on the harvest survey, calls come in, try to provide as accurate information as you possibly can on your hunting effort. Because there are a lot of areas, for elk and for deer, as well as whitetail deer, where we're looking at those harvest trends, and we need good information to see if where that trajectory of that population is going, and if we make a management change to try to bolster populations, we need that information to see if it's actually doing what we thought it might do.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's where it comes in, and stopping at those check stations is even if you didn't harvest anything, you can still pass on a lot of great information. Where are the check stations located in Region 1 this year?
So we have 4 game check stations. There's 2 in the Kalispell area, 1 down in the Swan. So it's a few miles down the Swan Valley. The other one is out west of town here, a few miles, about 6 miles west of town. It's on Highway 2. And then we have another check station up by Olney that we run, and then another one over at Thompson Falls. And right now those are run every weekend of the season. And probably one of the most important things we get from those check stations is just discussion with hunters about what they're seeing, what their experiences are. We also get some age information from pulling teeth from some of the animals that are harvested. We also have, for chronic wasting disease, a sampling station in Libby. So we talked about mandatory testing. So there's an either sex whitetail deer license that's only valid in the CWD management zone around Libby. that's mandatory testing. And so we run a CWD sampling station over the weekends and on Mondays, right there in Libby, to give people an opportunity to come get their animal tested. And so, yeah, anybody who harvests something, we definitely encourage you to get it tested. Just monitor CWD, as well as provides you information on the status of your animal.
Can hunters take their own sample and send it in?
They sure can. Yeah, and there's information on our website about how to do that. There's a video on how to collect those. But we're more than willing to do what we can to help. So you can go to one of the check stations, you can go to the CWD sampling station, or you can come to the Region 1 headquarters here during the general season. And there are people here to help collect samples.
Yeah. So any check station can get that sample, right?
Yep. We try to offer that. The only thing that we may be limited by is if it gets really backed up and we get a lot of people coming through. For safety reasons, we may have to try to usher people through. But typically, we've gotten a fair number of samples from the check stations.
Mm-hmm. Now, this next question might be a tough one, but because you guys have a lot to be proud of in Region 1, but what would you say are some of the things that you're most proud of about your region?
I think in terms of, being the wildlife manager, I'm also a supervisor. I have 10 people I supervise. And we've gone through some traditions. When I came into this position, I probably had one of the older age groups, a lot of very talented biologists and specialists on staff. And we've had a lot of turnover. So I'm really, really proud of the folks that we have in here. Very sharp, dedicated folks that really want to improve wildlife for everybody. And they really work hard at it. And I think to me, as being someone overseeing that, I'm proud of my staff. Our efforts to try to bolster information so we can provide better information for those decision makers like commission. And then we also have active staff that are working on conservation. So habitat conservation is probably the other thing I'm really proud of. And so we're working on conservation easements that allow, if the landlord participates in that land is open in perpetuity for free public access.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing. And so we're looking at, probably almost 400,000 acres that are in conservation easement that will be available to hunters in perpetuity. So.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up the staff, because I've always had wonderful interaction with people in Region 1, and just the fact that all of you take the time, like you're doing here today, just taking that time to let us give input, but also just get that information, which helps us all. Last tough question for you. Obviously, you are in this because you love the outdoors and wildlife, so you probably do a little hunting yourself. What is your favorite game to hunt in Region 1?
I still like to go after elk. I mean, it's getting a little bit harder as you get older to get way back in there.
Yeah.
Concerned of packing those things out, but I like the challenge. I've been able to find some places up here in Region 1, even though we don't have the elk numbers. You can find pockets of elk where there were times where I've been the only person in there pursuing those elk. So, if you're willing to get on off the road a bit, you can get into some pretty decent hunting. I think it's a challenge because I also noticed that if you happen to bump those elk and spook them out of that area, good luck finding them again, because who knows where they go. But then also whitetail deer hunting is fun. There's a lot of different techniques you can use, and it's just a fun thing to do, and it's not nearly as much work as elk hunting. But I probably have to put elk hunting first, and then maybe whitetails after that.
Yeah, it's a great region. I lived up on the Flathead Lake for many years, and gosh, it's pretty hard to beat.
Yeah,
it's great stuff there. Anything we haven't covered today, Neil, that you'd like to bring up?
I'd like to put in a plug for our Region 1 webpage and some of the annual reports that our staff are putting together. So, we've had a lot of, good discussion about hunting opportunity, but if you'd like more detailed information, we have several annual reports out there that are really good and I think very informative. And you can go on to the Region 1 webpage for Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, go to reports. There's a little tab, you click on it. And there's some pretty detailed information at the hunting district level for elk, whitetail deer, mule deer, upland game. and we're still working on a few others, but we've been putting, or you can stop in at the office up here. We have copies of those that are available on, and they've been pretty popular with the sports.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the podcast description, I've got a link for Region 1 as well. So you can just click that and it'll go right to what Neil's talking about. So you've got the webpage and Facebook page too, right?
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, take a look at that. Just go to the podcast description, click on it. You'll get a lot of great information there too. So all that, combined, and hopefully a lot of what we talked about today is giving you some great information out there. If folks want to ask you any questions, I've got your a link to your email there, and you can get back to them as well.
Yep, that is correct. And if they want to go onto our web page as well, they can find information on how to contact the local biologist, and they're more than willing to help as well.
Yeah. So Region 1's a great place to go. Good hunting there and that. So give it a try. Neil, thanks so much for spending so much time with us here and giving us some great information about all the different hunting opportunities in Region 1.
Nope, thank you, Dale. Appreciate the podcast and getting the word out. And anything we can do to help folks is we're going to give it our best shot.
Well, thank you also to you and your staff, and pass along to your staff for what you do for hunters and that here in Region 1. So there you have it, folks. There is Neil Anderson with Montana Fish Wildlife Parks Wildlife Manager there, and giving us some great information. Be sure and make sure you get all your comments into either me or Neil, and that love to hear from you, and let us know if there's anything we missed here that you'd like us to do. So do that, and until then, well, get out there, have some fun, be safe out there, check those regs before you go, and we'll see you next time here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast.
Thanks for watching the Montana Outdoor Podcast. There's no way we could do this podcast without the incredible support of sponsors like Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock, high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. And of course, Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss snowplows and accessories, and Diamond Sea Trailers and Accessories. Go see them on the web at rmtte.com. We'd love to hear what you thought of this week's podcast. When you get a minute or two, shoot us an email and tell us your thoughts. Same goes if you have any questions for Rigger or this week's guest. Just send your questions or comments to downrigger@montanooutdoor.com. Hey, don't forget we should be dropping a new podcast this next Saturday. Until then, gang, we hope to see you soon out in Montana's great outdoors.